What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to The Time Is Now. Glad you guys are here. I'm joined by my really good friend here, Trevor Mauch. What is happening, brother?
Kent, what's up, dude? Good to connect in person again a few months ago, and awesome to be on here with you.
Yeah, man. I mean, for you guys that don't know Trevor, Trevor is the founder of Carrot. He has literally helped thousands and thousands of real estate professionals over his career. He's been a great influence and a driver, thought leader in the real estate investing space for many, many years as it relates to not only becoming wildly effective and purposeful with your marketing and your customer acquisition strategies, but equally as an entrepreneur and as somebody who has gone through his own journey, has gone through and built like I said, a very, very successful business over the last few years. And so I asked Trevor on here today because I really want to get into some stuff, brother, about, we could spend a lot of time talking about the marketing, right? You and I have done that type of podcast in the past. It's certainly been the center of a lot of our conversations over the last few years. I mean, I guess, what is it? God, it's probably 15 years, 12 years for sure.
It's been right around there, man. Yeah, probably 2008, maybe 2009. Yeah.
A long time. So, but what I really want to talk about today is something that I know is very, very near and dear to your heart as well as mine. And that is, the entire point of the Time Is Now podcast is really focusing on the moment you're in, taking advantage of now, where you are in the cycle of business, where you are in the cycle and the season of your life, making sure that as you are building a business, as you are going through the grind, as you realize exactly where you are and what is the next level you are aspiring to get up to. I think both you and I agree that the reality of this is what got you here will not get you there, right? And so we go through these phases as inside of our journey, and I know you've seen it, I know I've seen it, where people kind of get stuck and they plateau in certain places because they're still trying to address the market, address their business with the same tools, the same knowledge base that they had before. They haven't really evolved. They haven't put themselves into different rooms, surrounding themselves with different people that help them to move up the ladder. So I really want to, if we can, let's spend this, 30, 45 minutes we've got together and just kind of talk about it. Cause I know you're extremely passionate about it as well.
Dude, it's number one, this is one of my favorite topics to talk about, like, all time. And anytime I get a chance to dive into this with an entrepreneur, the reason I have a tight connection to it is because I built a business in that time when we first had met. That business today is insanely successful without me. But I built a business that I had grown to not like it. I had grown to despise the business that I had created. And I remember this is probably 2008 or so. And I was a mid 20-something-year-old guy. I remember waking up one day. We had in 2010, we had our first daughter in 2010, McKinley, and she went off to daycare. My wife went off to work, and I was supposed to be working. I was supposed to be at home working in my home office. And I remember too many days in a row, I sat there at 9, 10, 10:30 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, going like, I don't want to get out of this darn bed to go do the work in the business that I had created. And most of us, man, like we become passionate about entrepreneurship because we want to move towards freedom, right? We want to move towards something that seems like it sets us free, something that it's like, when I get to this spot, then I'll be able to choose anything that I want to do. I'll be able to have all this freedom, flexibility, and impact. And so many of us build businesses that actually give us the opposite, actually traps us more than potentially a 9-to-5 job would possibly.
Let's talk about that for a second, because because I think that's really important, right? I think it's important that we draw the contrast between them before we get into kind of some of the meat and potatoes. Is that we both know the journey of where you can actually, how people get off on this. In other words, they go down the wrong path. They find themselves, in a situation to where, as you said, right, I dread the day, I dread the business. The business owns my ass. This isn't fun for me. And it no longer is about the money, because as you just pointed out, the money's coming, right?
Yep.
The money's coming, but you're still unfulfilled and unhappy. Talk about, how you got there. First off, kind of give everybody a little bit of your background. Talk about Carrot for a second, and then how you got to this 2008, 2010.
Dude, 100%. So yeah, fast forwarding through today. So we've got 54 full-time employees. I'm a guy who never wanted any employees and felt, man, like it'd be miserable to have 10, and now we have 50 something. And I'll kind of walk through those growth mindsets here in a second. We're 13, 14 million a year in revenue, very profitable, bootstrapped, not venture funded. We're a remote company. So I've got my big office here, 8,000 square feet here, but it's a co-working space. I live in a tiny town called Roseburg, Oregon. And then we have maybe 10 employees locally. We got our big gym out there, our content studio and other things, but then everyone else is all over the country. And so that kind of gives you a picture of how the business is structured overall. Now on the real estate side, so all of you guys and gals who are listening to this, who are investors, I'm an investor as well. We have this building, we bought the building next door, the historical building next door about a year and a half ago. We're renovating that, putting apartments upstairs, retail's already downstairs. We bought the building 2 buildings down from that. So we're starting to take over the block. We're putting apartment upstairs there, amazing retail downstairs. And that's kind of part of my purpose and mission now. So that kind of gives you guys an overall feel. But going back to that time, I had been fed that line because we both came through the internet marketing world where, guys like Frank Kern, amazing marketers, and so look up to that guy and so many other people. But we were oftentimes sold the work at home in your underwear, like this lifestyle entrepreneur business. So that's what I was trying to create. And at that time, it was oftentimes don't hire people, like go get a VA or two, which is great. I'm not going to say that's bad, but oftentimes you have a trade-off. It's if you want to grow for a period of time, you likely have to give up some level of freedom in order to grow, but then you need to grow in order so that you can hire the right people to really buy back the time and give the freedom. Right. And it's that spot when you're stuck in the middle is where that purgatory is. And that's where I was back then, is I was earning, a couple $100,000 a year, taxable income, had no actual employees, had an assistant who was pretty much a full-time assistant, but as a contractor, I had a business partner, and I was making decent low 6-figure money, but I didn't have enough revenue and enough consistency, enough predictability, enough momentum in my revenue to have the confidence to then go out there and hire. And also I had this line fed into me that actually traps you, that employees trap you. And so what happened to me, Kent, was around that time. I remember too many days in a row of having that happen. And I pulled back and just go, man, I wonder if this whole entrepreneur dream isn't true. I wonder if guys like Kent or, at that time I looked up to Greg Clement a lot. I'm like, these people that seem like they have a lot of balance and they're making really good money and they have really great businesses. Is that just a facade? And they're feeling the same way that I'm feeling behind the scenes. And so I set out the next couple of years to say, I just want to see if it's real or if I just need to go get a job at Nike or something. And so I joined my first mastermind. So anyone listening to this, guys, where things started to change for me was masterminds, and 100%. So I joined my first mastermind as a $20,000 plus check. I didn't have just 20 grand laying around everywhere. And then yours was the second mastermind I was a part of, massively influential for me in those years. And I remember tapping into that mastermind and I said, my one goal at that early phase was I want to get close to this person. And that was one of the things I was attracted with your mastermind too. I'm like, Kent seems like he's living the type of life that would be really attractive for me to move towards. And I want to get closer to see how it looks and how it feels on the inside and kind of emulate some of those things. And so in that time, I had discovered that I built a business that was putting me on what I now call the 3 to 5 year turn and burn cycle. Like I was always the guy who every 2 to 4 years, I would come up with a new business idea. Because the other business idea was getting old now, right? I had launched it. I'd started it.
True.
I launched it. I'd started. That's where I got my energy. But then I didn't know how to get past the startup phase and build a team and buy my time back. So what ends up happening for a lot of us, and a lot of you real estate investors are doing this right now, is that money machine that's bringing in cash for you right now, you end up going, okay, well, this I'm starting to despise because it's painful for me right now and I don't enjoy it as much. So now I start to look at other things around here that are shiny objects. And I start to go, okay, this over here, like I'm going to start doing coaching. I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to start doing that. Because this thing over here worked, right? We've got the golden touch. We made it make money. Now we go, I'm going to do the same thing over here. What we forget is we don't know how to actually plug someone in to run this business that got us there. Yep. And so we divert our attention. We start something new. We're on that 3 to 5 year turn and burn cycle. Our attention goes away from the original business that's making us money. It goes over here. This business starts to falter. This business, then every 3 to 5 years, man, you're like this, you're restarting. Yeah. And I'd done that twice up to that point. I'm like, That's not the path I want to be on. That doesn't feel like freedom. And so started to research. No, go for it.
Yeah, I can't. I just want to say that I could not agree with what you. I see this all the time when I coach a lot of CEOs in the space, and you nailed it perfectly. I mean, it is, and the beauty of what you just said is I want everybody to understand it's not about you. This is about this is not the exception. What I've found in my own experience, it's the norm. Is that because you're still that hustler mentality, if I don't know how to get it to the next thing, I subconsciously, it's not even a conscious thought. I get excited about something new, some other new opportunity. And before I knew it, I just keep bouncing and bouncing. I mean, you nailed it perfectly.
Dude, and it's natural, right? Like
you don't even realize you're doing it.
Dude, us high quick starts, that's the thing. Entrepreneurs oftentimes are the visionaries or the quick starts. Where we struggle is once it gets into operational mode, we get bored. And so one thing that I had to start to learn how to do this last 6, 7, 8 years is go, shoot, I don't want to have that happen with Carrot. And so I was really intentional, being 3, 4 years into that business. I said, how do I just innovate in this existing business and make it exciting for me again? And what ends up happening, and I'm going to show you guys something here in a bit that I call the entrepreneur freedom formula, that is my framework that I've made on how to build this type of business over and over again. We're helping our clients with it. But I started to realize and recognize from tapping into other amazing resources like you and masterminds and my friend Alex Sharfin, where it's like your business completely changes at the 3s and the 10s, right? So I was on a call with Jason Lewis the other day, and he owns a $3 million a year wholesaling business out of Utah, Carrot client. And I had him walk through. I'm like, dude, Jason, walk me through every season of that business. Walk me through 0 to 100,000, 100,000 to 300,000, 300,000 to $1 million, $1 million to 3. And we started walking through, like, what do you as the founder have to do at each stage to get that time back and wade through that stage? And at the 3s and 10s, things break. So when you start the business and you're just you, right? You're out there hustling, you make your first 100K, you're making enough money now to where it's a good income. You might even still have a job at that point, making $100,000 a year, W-2, but you might not have quite enough to go out there and like hire a real team. And so you start to get bogged down in tasks. That's where a lot of people then hire their first VA or two, right? Yep. And so what you have to do, pretty much like sub $1 million, what you delegate is tasks. Sub $1 million, it's pretty much delegating tasks. You go, what am I doing well? Let me document it. Let me go find someone who can do this stuff. And then as you get closer to $1 million, it might be you delegate projects when you're closer to $1 million, where you have tasks, sales or acquisitions or dispositions or whatever. You document how you did it well. And now you hire someone. Now that person might have a person or two below them that does the same thing. Now, 300,000 to $1 million, like I said, that's where that starts to change. Is from 300,000 to $1 million, you might be delegating projects at that point, a little bit more. $1 million to 3, you're really delegating projects for sure. But then 3 to 10, you're delegating results. 10 to 30, you're delegating strategy in the functions of the business that you don't want to be doing it. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is because the points where most of us get to that spot where we do the turn and burn and we start to get distracted is usually when we're up against one of those points. We're up against the next 3 or the 10, and things get hard. No doubt. Things get painful, right? Yep. And what it is I heard this from my coach and mentor, Dan Martell. He's like, we oftentimes don't want to grow through pain. Oftentimes we do a couple things when we hit a pain point. We either decide to self-sabotage, right? So we like, oh, shoot, that next call that's coming in, I'm not going to answer it because I'm already overwhelmed. If I answer that subconsciously, I know that's going to create these other activities I don't want to do that are already painful, or whatever. We start to self-sabotage. We start to slow down our decision-making on things we know that we need to do. We start to second guess, or decisions become way slower. Or you decide to sell, which is not a bad option, but oftentimes we decide to exit too soon, potentially before the real value of the business is there, because it's painful. And we're like, maybe by selling can remove me from the pain now, which would say that's not a bad option, as long as it's a big enough exit. And so what we need to do at the 3s and 10s is it's always a process change or addition, and or communication change or addition. Like I was saying, when you're delegating tasks, it's a certain process that works to delegate tasks. Let me pull back with the Loom video and let me document what I'm doing. And now let me give that to a VA. And then the communication cadence is I want that VA reporting to me daily at the end of the day. Here's what I did today. Here's the questions that I have, and here's the blocks that I have. That's the process, and that's a cadence.
Right.
But once you go to delegating projects, you get closer to that million or $500,000 to $1 million, then there's a little bit of a different communication cadence. Once you start to delegate results and you might have a leader underneath you, now I'm not delegating that to that level. Now it's scorecards, right? We're locking into goals together. We're aligning on these goals. I might still be supplying the strategy to you if you're not, a strategic leader or VP level, but now I want you reporting to me weekly on the scorecard, and then I can coach. And so
Right.
I know I dove into some details there, but I want you guys to.
You had something earlier. Why don't you show everybody? You
Yep.
said you had a framework here.
Yeah, let me share this with you guys right now. So I'm a big drawer. Like I'll sit there and sketch at the coffee shops and just start to think about formulating, how can you encapsulate the strategy in your mind so you can take that strategy and then give it to other people. And now I originally did this, Kent, because I had the vision a few years ago where I'm like, I want to buy companies. And if I buy companies, I need to have a model that we operate within to be able to go to that CEO and say, this is the model we're executing to grow this company.
Right.
And so with this, I call it the entrepreneur freedom formula. And right at the center, just like with what you preach and you're so passionate about, is building a business of freedom and impact. For me, I want freedom, but I also want impact. Now, why is it that I want freedom and impact? Let me get my cursor away from there. I want freedom and impact because if I just have freedom and I'm making consistent profits, I've got my energy and time, that's pretty much a lifestyle business. Yep. Now, lifestyle business isn't a bad thing for a period of time, right? It's amazing sitting there and collecting checks after you've done the hard work to create the business momentum. But a lifestyle business oftentimes can only be a lifestyle business, in my experience, for like a year or two at a time, right? Before the market starts innovating around you, or you have issues in the company where you get sucked back into it. Yep. Or if you want to grow the business and you don't have someone leading that business for you, if you want to grow it, the pains are going to happen at the 3s and 10s, you get sucked back in. So a lifestyle business can only be a lifestyle business for a year or two at a time, unless you have someone running the business for you. And we'll show you guys how that works here. But everything in the entrepreneur freedom formula starts up here at the vision side of it. And I want you guys to kind of, if you're watching this, look at this. If not, go check out the YouTube version of this, or I'll try to explain it verbally. But I want you guys to kind of place where you are in this framework here. So right here, if you feel that your work is impactful, you're pumped about your work, you're getting up going, man, I'm motivated to keep doing the work. It's exciting. I feel like I'm adding good value to the market, and it's an exciting challenge. And you have consistent income, but your business kind of owns you, where you're working 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week. You're making great money, but you have no time to spend it, invest into it. You say you're doing it for your family, but your family is the one getting the short end of the stick, right? Then you're in the hustle and grind mode right here. And that's not a bad thing. We all have to start there.
I was about to say, everybody starts there, right? Everybody starts with this, hey, you may not even be able to articulate it as well as you are right now, but the reality of it is everybody kind of starts in this place right here.
Yeah, we start there. And the thing is that I always want to make sure people realize hustling and grinding is not a long-term business strategy. Right. Just like if you think about like the actual word grind, gears, if gears grind together, they will cease to work after a certain period of time because they grind and they break down. So, but they can grind for a period of time. So now let's look at the next one. Let's say that you've advanced a little bit. Okay. You've got a business now that's consistently profitable. You're starting to buy back a little bit of your time, but maybe you're making really good money and you have ample time to enjoy it, but you're lacking true purpose and meaning. I was talking with one of our clients, Keith Sant. He came to a Carrot Camp event a couple of years ago. His first one, he's like, this is his 6th one now. He's coming to next week. And I remember his first one, he came and said, dude, like I did my first $100,000 a month last month. And everyone's just like cheering. And this guy is, he does not have any of those advantages. He grew up in a poor family. His parents did not help him with any of this. Every disadvantage he had against him. Right. And but he hustled and he made it. Had his first $100,000 a month. He comes to Carrot Camp celebrating it, but he was all down. And we're like, Keith, dude, like you just did your first $100,000 a month, man. Why are you down? It seems like you should be jumping up and down. He goes, man, it's miserable. I don't want to have another month like that again. And we said, what do you mean? He goes, dude, I was working 60 or 70 hours a week to make that 100K. I had no time for life. He goes, it's terrible on my relationship, terrible on my health. And we said, okay, dude, so what do you want? He goes, well, I want a business that gives freedom and impact. And so we set him on the path to be able to buy back more time now. And so now he works 10 to 15, 10 to 20 hours a week, still making about $500,000 a year. But now he's got his time back. But this last time he came to Carrot Camp, Kent, it was the opposite problem. He said, dude, I'm making great money, but I feel empty.
Balance,
inside.
right? Figuring out how to balance it. Yep.
He feels empty. He felt empty inside. And it's because he was down here in the lifestyle business at that point and was missing purpose. He was missing the purpose side of the equation. So let's look at this last part of it over here. Let's say that you enjoy your work, but your income is a roller coaster. You're like, dude, I'm pumped about my work. And it seems like I've got the time. I don't feel burnt out. I don't feel low energy more often than not. But dude, my income is up and down. And that's what a lot of people is like. Their income is up and down, that roller coaster that I call it. Mm-hmm. And that's because you haven't built a business that's actually structured to give you consistent profits. Your strategy is built off of what I call hamster wheel income or hamster wheel marketing that makes it to where the boom and bust is inevitable. You don't have what we call evergreen. That's what we focus on here at Carrot, is we help you build evergreen lead machines for sellers. So you have the best leads coming to you on an evergreen way. Then you stack onto it the higher leverage marketing with paid and direct mail and things like that. So if you're on the income roller coaster and you feel like you're not getting burnt out, but you're like, man, I can't stay like this forever because it's kind of stressful. We need a better strategy. We need to bake evergreen practices into our business. So we do an activity one time and it works for us for years on the marketing side and the income side. When you go, how do you do it on the income side? You take your active income and put it into businesses to buy. You take your active income, put it into real estate, into multifamily properties. That turns your active hamster wheel income into evergreen income. Okay. And then you add leverage to your business. So I'll kind of finish it with this, Kent, and we can take it wherever you want to go with it. Is that person that enjoys their work, they feel like they've got good time and energy. It's a passion project at that point, if you're on the income roller coaster. And so the perfect mix is we always start up here and we say, let's start with a basic, clear vision for yourself first and then your business. And I've got to process each one of these little chunks as a training and a framework that goes to it that then unlocks you in that. Now, I don't sell this, dude. This is for me. Like I use this and
I do something very similar. It's what I call my P5 process. I get it totally.
I love it. So I'll wrap with this. Is what I want to challenge you guys on is this cycle, I feel, is like a 3 to 5 year cycle. Okay. This cycle from, let me create a clear vision for my life personally. I do 20, 10 and 5 year vision. I remember, Kent, this is 2008 or 9, but the first event I'd ever gone to. And it was 2000, I think it was 2008, Gary Vaynerchuk's first ever paid speaking gig in Orlando, Florida at Rich Scheffrin's New Beginnings event.
Wow. Yep.
Dude, and it was like this epic, it was a week long. Frank Kern did a talk there. Andy
Jenkins.
Yeah, all of them, like literally all of them.
The whole crew.
Jay Abraham did a 2-day workshop, and I didn't have money to pay for this event, but they had a contest. And I entered in the contest. You had to like write out a thing in this blog comment on why you deserve a ticket to this event. It's a $9,000 ticket. And I ended up winning. Like I reverse engineered the other people who won. I get this email, it was in spam. And I just checked my spam that day. I'm like, is this thing real? And it was. I won a $9,000 ticket to this New Beginnings event. And I show up there, and it was when Frank Kern did his famous core influence talk.
Yep.
Where he literally had like an overhead projector.
Very well, man. I remember.
Oh, dude. So good, man. He literally had this overhead projector, like with the little clear film that he's swapping out on top of it, you know?
Oh yeah.
and Frank's drawing on this, and he's got us all mesmerized. And it was the simplest, but most profound talk for me, where he just said, like, picture your ideal average day. Don't picture like the best day ever. Like if you love Metallica and your best day ever is like jamming with Metallica and being a groupie for them for a day, like don't picture that. Okay. What's your ideal average day? Like the day that you'd be pretty darn pumped to wake up to every single day of your life if you had to, right? And so he took that and he goes like, do it in such a vivid format from the second you wake up till the second you go to bed, and write a story.
Right.
And I did that on the flight home. I wrote my first ever, what I now call vision story. And what I do now, I've done it for about a decade now. I do a 20-year, literally. I'm 39 right now. So I'll be 59 in 20 years. My oldest daughter's 11, so she'll be 31. And I literally wake up and I go like, okay, when I open my eyes, what do I see? What's the room look like? Is there a window? What's outside of the window? Is it a body of water? What's it look like? Where do I go first? When I walk in the kitchen, who's out there? What conversations am I having? It's literally all throughout the day. What time do I go to work? Do I walk to work? Do I drive? What car do I drive? Who's there when I get there? What type of work am I doing? Who am I working with? Literally all the way through. And I do that at the 20 year because it kind of breaks your brain and starts to break some of your limiting beliefs. If we do the 5 year or even 10, we go, I don't think I can do that. But for me, 20 year, you just break all limiting beliefs and say, well, if everything was possible, what would that day look like?
Yep.
And ideally, that vision story should be so exciting for you. It should be the most exciting story that you've read all year, hopefully. And then you walk it back and do a 10 year. You go, okay, I'm 39 now, I'll be 49 at that time. And my kids are here's where they are. Here's where my wife is. Here's where my house probably is. And then at that point, I start to go like, I get even more clear on my business. What life do I have to live in 10 years to live the 20 year? And what does my business look like right now at that point? Am I working in it? What is my job? Do I own a portfolio of companies? And then can I do the same thing? Ideal average day, 10 years. And I walk it back to 5. And in the 5 now is where I get a lot more clear on my business now, because now at the 5, I can start to go, okay, cool. Is my current business the business that I'm running in 5 years? Okay, we got to ask ourselves that. Otherwise, we're going to have our business run away with us instead of us driving it. Our business is going to own us, not us own the business. And ask, what is that business in 5 years? What is my role? Am I in this business? Am I not in this business? If I'm not, what am I doing? And then that allows us to now make a 1 year plan. That's the 1 year strategy, right? So if you guys do nothing else from this call, I mean, I don't have time to go over all of these, like how to build the playbooks and how to do the energy audit to buy back your time and really live that best business, or how to delegate correctly, or how to, bake in the infinite game mindset once you get your time back. I think if the biggest thing everyone can adopt is, if you don't have a really crystal clear vision story for your personal life, start there.
Well, dude, I say it this way. And I couldn't agree more with everything you just said, brother. I mean, look, you've been to my home, you've been to my office, you've seen the way it all started, quite frankly, off of exactly what you just said. And I know that yours is very similar. Like, we live very intentional lives at this point, because we took the time to say, this is where I want to be, and then to work backwards from there to start to lay the groundwork. And that's exactly what you're saying. I'm going to start with 20, go back to 10, go back to 5, go back to 1, and even break it down further from there. What are the milestones, the activities that I need to participate in on the regular to get me to where these things can actually become a reality for me? And what I was going to say a second ago, I give this example, but or this analogy, I should say, but if your wife called you today and said, honey, I need you to pick up something from the store, you would for sure not let her stop right there. You would for sure say, babe, tell me exactly what you need from the store. What do you need? The milk, the bread, whatever it is. And then, if it's milk, tell me exactly what kind of milk, all the things, right? Why do we do these things? Because we're starting with the destination in mind. If I'm coming to your office, up in the middle of Oregon, never been to Oregon, for sure, one of the very first things I would do is say, can you give me an address so that I can put it in the GPS, because I want to make sure that when I land, I come directly to there. Why? Because I want to be successful. What you're really saying here at a very high level is, it all starts with the destination in mind. And we do these things on a trivial level every single day, with going to the grocery store or going to but it's shocking. And I'm sure you've had the same experience. It's shocking to me how many people don't do the same thing with the big decisions. What do I want my business to look like? What do I want my life to look like? What do I want my marriage to look like? What do I want the relationship with my kids to look like? We just go through the motions and somehow believe that we'll recognize success when we run into it. And you've been around this industry for a long time. I've been around this industry for a long time. We both know for sure all the people that Oh, we've got a new YouTube video on this, a new TikTok on this, a new webinar on this, whether it's short sales or foreclosure, whatever the hot topic is, and people are just grabbing it, whatever they can, believing somehow that they will recognize success when they run into it, when the reality of it is, and we both know this to be true, and I don't want this message to be lost, is that it starts with having a very clear destination in mind. And if you don't take the time to do that, then chances are much better than not that I can almost guarantee you will end up on that hamster wheel that you were just talking about, and look up one day and not recognize the business, not recognize your relationships, not recognize where you are or where you're trying to, none of it. And be looking up at the ceiling at 10 o'clock in the morning saying, man, I don't really want to do this. And nobody wants to be in that situation. And that is the entire point of what you're trying to cover here.
Dude, 100%, man. And if you guys pick up nothing else, like if there's anybody on this call that you're, let's say 2 to 3 years into your business and you've got some traction, right? We're making some good. If you're in the boardroom mastermind, then you likely are somewhere in 2 to 5 years of your business, like prime time to be hearing this type of message. And in that first year to two, most of us, we get that motivation running away from something most of the time. Like when we're starting a new business, or even going from a job to a new business, or starting a new business, oftentimes we're running away from the business that we grew that we didn't like. This was draining our energy, or running away from a job we don't like, or an income ceiling, or running away from people who are saying that we aren't capable of achieving something big, whatever it is. We're usually running away from something. But then as soon as you get that consistent profit locked down, profit part of the business locked down, you need to start running towards something now. And that's where that vision comes in. That's where it's insanely healthy to then step out and go, okay, now where the heck am I going? Not just what am I running away from? Bro, that's where people have that turn and burn, that 2, 3, 4 years in. If you're starting to feel that, where you're going, oh my gosh, my energy's getting drained by this business more than it was, or I'm starting to get distracted. It's usually because you've run out of runway on your vision. Like if you pretend that, if you look at an airplane as an analogy, and you're trying to take off, with this big airplane, the bigger the airplane, the longer the runway, right? So the bigger the goals you have, the longer the runway, the vision that there needs to be. But what happens with a lot of us when we start to lose that motivation, lose the energy, is we lost the runway. We ran out of runway in that darn thing. That plane stopped now. We don't know where to go. Everything is a knee-jerk reaction, knee-jerk decision for the short term, for this quarter, next quarter, maybe 2 quarters out. Very, very seldom is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years out. That's where oftentimes us drivers, visionaries get our energy, is by making decisions that move things for years, not just making a decision in the weekly that helps that one deal get closed. So if you guys are in that spot, y'all, where you're getting burnt out, and you're wondering if this business is the thing you need to do, and you're thinking about switching, ask yourself, can I innovate in this business? Can I lengthen the runway another 3 to 5 years in this business and be excited about it? And then look at that entrepreneur freedom formula and ask, what is the problem? Do I just need to buy back my time and delegate and plug people effectively into that so I can get back to a spot where I get more energy? Amazing, do that. Right? Or maybe you've already done that and you're in the lifestyle business. You're like, dude, I just want purpose in my business. Figure out what gives you purpose. Here at Carrot, we started something we call our Carrot Impact Fund, put $500,000 into it. And then we donate 1% of our gross revenue. We feed hundreds of thousands of people every year. We donate to causes that we're passionate about. And that's only part of what we do. The other part of purpose for me is I want to beautify downtown. They're terrible in money investments, dude. Like this building next door, I'm looking at it, go, man, we're sinking stuff into this, but it's beautifying downtown, and I love it. So figure out what gives you that purpose, and then make sure you build a consistent, profitable business based off of evergreen marketing with a good strategy, add leverage to it, build that team, buy back your time, and then start to bake in the things into that business that give you that purpose. And then every 3 to 5 years, you got to then lengthen that runway again. That's why I say it's a 3 to 5 year cycle. Is the only way you can get off of this thing is selling the business, moving over to the owner bucket. Now you're no longer in that, or you start a new business and you get on that cycle, or you lengthen the runway in your existing business and make a new 3 to 5 year vision for that business. And you grow through that next phase of the 3s or the 10s.
I love it, brother. Absolutely love it. Let me ask you a couple questions before I let you go here. So I know you're an extremely process oriented guy. Have you always been that way?
So
And
here's the
it's
weird
something
thing, man.
that you kind of developed as you've alluded to it several times. You've exposed yourself to other masterminds, events,
Mhm.
coaches, thinkers, bigger thinkers than you. I mean, were you always this way, or is this something that has evolved and you've grown into become the CEO that you are?
Yeah. So I get energy from like writing down strategic frameworks and ways to think strategically. It drains my energy to write down like task-based process. But in those early years, I remember at one of the first boardrooms, I was walking through, I think like our online process playbook thing I made with WordPress or whatever. The reason that I probably enjoyed that at that time is because I knew that the end goal with that was getting my time back. And
Yeah.
so that excited me. So my brain works that way, but it drains my energy to use process, gives me energy to create strategic process. That's kind of like my art.
I love it, brother, because I think that, where I was going with the question was I think that again, back at the root of this is people need to understand that this entrepreneurship journey is exactly that. It's a journey, and that you have to evolve, you have to grow, you have to figure out your strengths and weaknesses and address them. Whatever season you are in the business and whatever is driving you, and as you said so eloquently, figure out where you are exactly in the cycle and what to do about it. And I think that a lot of people, unfortunately, get locked in what is right in front of them and can't see the forest for the trees, and taking the time to step back, get some exposure to stuff like this, like what we're talking about, has a tendency, I don't know, it sounds like for you, and I know it's been for me, it has a tendency to really unlock some stuff, and what the real purpose and the real vision and what the real potential is of all this stuff we're doing, right?
Dude, big time. And guys, this is why you get in a darn mastermind. Like this is the stuff. This is the reason you get in a mastermind, because there's always going to be someone 2-3 steps ahead of you and 2-3 steps behind you. And so as you kind of look at where you are in the entrepreneur freedom formula wheel, you look at that person who's already bought back their time back. Like if you're grinding and you're in that hustle and grind mode, get around those people who've already figured that out and talk with them. Hey, what was the first process you made? Or what was that next right hire, or whatever it is? So I'm giving you guys a framework to think on. Now you got to connect with the people who can plug you into the next actions for your specific business.
Let me ask you one more question. So I want to make sure that people know how to reach out to you, how to become a Carrot customer, which I highly recommend everybody who sees this and hears this does. Where do they go to do that first? Let's just talk about that.
Yeah, dude. So carrot.com, just like the vegetable, y'all. Shoot just shy of 8,000 clients right now, bringing in about 500,000 seller leads every single year, almost all through Google organic. And if you guys were to Google "sell my house fast" or any seller phrase, insert any city in the country, you're probably going to find 3 to 8 Carrot clients there dominating Google. So that's what we do, carrot.com. And then CarrotCast. So this mindset stuff, Kent, for energy. Back in 2016, I was writing big old blog posts. That's what made us our money, getting them ranked well in Google for Carrot, because that's what we teach our clients to do too. And we automate that now. And I'm like, dude, it's draining my energy. And if you talk about time is now, I kind of had my own minor version of your airplane story. After too many nights in a row of just jamming on 2, 3, 4 in the morning work, because I was in the hustle and grind mode at that time, right? I was excited about what I was doing. We were starting to make some money, but man, I had no time, and I was just leaving my crumbs for my family. But I did it. I did all that night work after everyone went to bed. I tried to make it so my kids, my wife didn't see me working. So, all right, babe, you go to bed. 10 to 2 in the morning is my time, right?
Yeah.
And we woke up. We were going on a 3-hour trip over the mountains to my parents' house, middle of the afternoon, after 2 or 3 nights of just grinding, getting this stuff done. And one second I was awake, and we were driving up the mountains in the Cascade Mountain Range. One second I was awake, next second I wasn't. And I fell asleep with my, at that time, 2 kids in the back seat. My wife was reading, middle of the day. And just like a movie, man, like, 60 miles an hour up in the mountains, you wake up and there's a guardrail here, and there like a ravine, curves like this, guardrail here, not a guardrail 60 feet back, not a guardrail 100 feet forward. And I woke up in just enough time to see the guardrail, swerve, hit it with the bumper, stop cold in the middle of the highway. Don't say anything. My wife's like, babe, what happened? I go, I almost ran us off the road and went down that ravine. I fell asleep. I didn't drive on a family trip for probably 6 months. And that day on, Kent, this is what started me to create this type of framework. That day on, I said, I'm not working nights or weekends again. And I went cold turkey the next day. I didn't take my computer into my house anymore for work. Didn't work a night or weekend for probably 4 or 5 years. And I just said, no longer can I build this business off of my back. I've got to do it with a team. And that's when I shifted to a team. But I talk about that kind of stuff on my podcast, the Carrot Cast, every Thursday, carrotcast.com.
Dude, I appreciate you sharing that story, because I think it kind of brings home just exactly what we're talking about here, right?
Mm-hmm.
This stuff gets real personal and gets very real very quickly. I appreciate you making yourself vulnerable and sharing that, man.
For sure, buddy. For sure.
So guys, make sure you go to carrot.com. How do they connect with you on social, man?
Yeah, guys, find me on IG. I answer all my DMs over there. It's Trevor.Mauch, M-A-U-C-H, Trevor.Mauch. Find me on IG, and pumped to connect with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And dude, after I know we've talked about this before, but we've got one of our big scaled escapes coming up again at the end of this year. I would love to have you out there and just sharing very specifically. We'll figure out the right topic, because I know you're an expert on the marketing side, but you're equally an expert on the process side. I would love for you to have the opportunity to get in front of our group here and really share.
Dude, this stuff I talked about today, I would rather talk about this stuff all day long. And so I'll do anything to add value to your audience, man, and help more of them scale and escape, buddy. It'd be fun.
I love it, man. All right, man. You guys make sure you go check out Trevor on IG. It's Trevor.Mauch, M-A-U-C-H, or go to carrot.com. Again, if you're not using a Carrot website in your real estate business right now, then you are already behind. Get it done. And brother, I appreciate you as always. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate y'all.
Peace.